is a good segue because like what your police community liaison. Sorry, I forgot your title, but
that's okay.
You're kind of identifying a lot of the limits of the law around hate crimes. That like just like who here really actually thinks that a person who's like feeling violent one night is like, oh, maybe I'll not attack that person because of that hate crime law. Like, I don't think that ever enters anyone's mind. So as a community, we really need to think broader, stronger, like community-based alternatives to just relying on the deterrent effect of statewide legislation that takes forever to pass and is always lacking and has really narrow definitions that don't actually, I think, satisfy the needs of our community.
Hi, my name is Leah. I work with an organization called Support New York. We work with issues of violence within our communities, intimate partner violence. I used to run a program called Safe Walk for Right Rights, which is basically a bike program, like Right Rights' program. So I've definitely been grappling with these issues for a long time. I'm speaking for myself, not for these organizations, but I want to echo what Richard's saying and just challenge us to think about how we can look at this issue more broadly. And I think we've spoken about good ideas for prevention, and I think that's really important. We as a community coming together, looking out for each other, programs like Right Rights. I don't know if I didn't hear anyone mention Safe Outside the System Collective of the Audre Lorde Project, but they're running a program that's similar to what's mentioned here about speaking to small businesses and making safe spaces in those businesses. So I think it's important to know about those projects and support them because they definitely could use more support. But I also, just from my experience working with Support New York, I think it's important to remember that going to the police is not an option for everyone. And I think we should just keep that in mind. And I don't really have a lot of answers, but I just want to challenge us to start thinking, start talking about how can we have community-based approaches to not only prevention, but as an alternative to prosecution. What we do at Support New York, I'm going to throw a term out there, but we use a transformative justice approach. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that even people who are, aggressors and are committing these crimes, they are humans. We live in the same spaces they do, and whatever happens, prosecution or not, we're living in the same spaces. Like we need to think about how can people be transformed, how can our communities be transformed, and what are ways that we can do that. So I just want us to think about that, and also part of that means building capacities in our own communities to do this kind of work, and it means creating connections with the people we live with. I think it's important to think about the fact that many of us might be new to the neighborhoods, living newer to these neighborhoods where we live, where this violence is happening, and so how are we connecting to these communities as new residents? How are we building the capacity, between different communities to do this kind of work? And so I know that it's not maybe the easiest conversation to have, but I'd really like to have us think about what would a transformative justice model look like in the context of being different communities working together rather than within one community, and how can we do that? How can we work alongside with these preventative methods and these advocacy methods, education methods, to try to think through ways to look at people as humans and try to create, spaces where we can all work together and this violence stops happening. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you. And just to add to that, the capacity issue and really working within communities is so important. And if you look around this room, it's certainly not reflective of that diversity that is Greenpoint and Williamsburg.